Hello, people. This is tomato garlic wizard, whatever. This is a cooking video today. We're gonna be making soup. Not really soup, but noodles. And it's just my recipe for making noodles. This is what I eat for lunch. I eat this with some bread. So I'm just recipe. So since I'm just making it for myself, I normally just put on a small pot of water. Doesn't really need to be any specific measurement, as long as it's enough so that the water can boil a little bit and like all the flavors can marinate before I add the noodles, and then about enough water so that after that the noodles can sit for like 3-4 minutes and cook, and then not all the water be gone, so I still have some broth. So what I do first, I cut up some garlic. What I do first is, before the water starts boiling, I add a few seasonings that I don't have in the garden, such as sazon. I just add just a bit so that the water kind of turns orange. Bouillon, I normally add 1 or 2. It depends on just how much chicken flavor you really want, how much of that chicken bouillon flavor you want in there. Normally I add 1, but sometimes if I don't have a lot of herbs, or if I'm out of some of these other seasonings, I'll add 2 just to kind of compensate. I add some black pepper, just a good little bit. Some crushed red pepper, just like 3 little things, because that stuff really will fuck with the other seasonings I'll add. And then everything else is like, sometimes I'll use a little bit of steak seasoning, sometimes some curry powder. I normally just add a good little bit, not too much, and then I add the bouillon later. And I eat this with chopsticks, so get yourself a spoon or whatever, a fork, whatever you're gonna use. And to break that up, I just use a chopstick because that's what I eat with, and it works fine for stirring and mixing it up. And just mix up your seasonings in the water a good bit. And let that start cooking. Normally I do that first, and then I go and collect the herbs that I want to use from the garden. And I'll go do that real quick and show you the herbs. Okay, got my herbs. So first I like to get a good bit of basil. I have leaves, but the basil flowers are also pretty good. I think they work better. A small amount of fennel. I like to use quite a good bit of basil. Small amount of fennel. Since I'm just making this for myself and it's a small pot, 1 small tiny little chili pepper. Of course, if you, like some people I know, really like super spicy stuff, maybe use 2, just use a big one. This is parsley. You like to use a good bit of parsley. And I'm low on cilantro, but sometimes I'll use a little bit of cilantro too. Just a good bit of parsley and a little bit of cilantro. It's a good combo. And I use just a bit. What is that? Wow. A little piece of dirt. A little bit of rosemary. A bit of thyme. Good bit of green onion. If I'm low on green onion, sometimes I'll just use chives, or I'll just use like one of these onions and just cut up a little bit of that. Use that in there. And then I like using a good bit of oregano too, but not more oregano than I use basil. I like to have more basil in there than oregano. And I also normally use 2 big leaves of Cuban oregano, but I didn't have any big leaves, so I used 4 small leaves today. Another piece of basil, a little piece of basil. And that's all the herbs that I use, and the pepper. And I'm gonna cut these up real quick, and then we're gonna add it to the pot because it's starting to get hot enough where it's simmering. And make sure to stir it decently often. Don't let the seasonings all clump up onto the sides or nothing. Oh, come on. So we got all the herbs cut up. We got the garlic cut up, which that's just one piece of garlic. And normally I just use scissors to cut up all the herbs. I like to cut everything up real small. Sometimes there's a few little chunks, but that's fine. The inconsistency is good. There's a little uniqueness to the bites. Damn it. I have no way of setting up the camera most of the time. Sorry. The pepper I normally cut it in half. And I just cut it up real small. Pepper, sometimes I use the scissors, but oftentimes it doesn't work well since it's so small. And then if I don't cut it in half first, then it becomes a lot harder. Just add that in there, garlic in there. And then we'll add all of this. Now, I'm not saying this is the best soup recipe, best noodles recipe, but it is my recipe. And if you'd like to copy it, if you can, then I believe whoever you are, you might find it quite good. You might want to add a little more spice if you like really spicy stuff. I like spice, but I can't eat stuff that's too spicy. It hurts coming out, and makes me eat a lot more bread to get it down. And the water is starting to boil here after we added our herbs. Just gonna stir it a little bit. Get it mixed around. Oops, spilled some water. That's fine. Then take some bouillon. I'm just gonna use 1 bouillon. It's probably about 2.5, maybe 3 cups of water in there. And normally you add 1 bouillon per cup of water if you want that good chicken taste, but I just want it, I want that taste in there. I don't want it to overpower anything, just enough so that you can taste it. And then there, normally after it's boiling like this, it dissolves pretty quick. But after I add the bouillon and all the herbs, stir that up, and I let it sit for like a minute or so. Stir it again, another minute, stir it again, and then as it's boiling, I add the noodles, which I like using fettuccine and these other noodles, which I don't remember the name of, but you know, you can really use anything, whatever you like, whatever you want. When I ran out of fettuccine, I would use spaghetti noodles, and it wasn't bad. Oops, wrong way. You know, add however many noodles you want to eat, but I try to ration mine. And so I try to take about 1/4 of the package each time. So I get 4 uses out of my noodles before I have to open a new box. Oops. And then I try to leave them all whole. I'll show when I put them in there. I'm going to stir the pot again, and then I don't feel the bouillon cube anymore. It feels like it's fully dissolved. So just stir it. And we'll give that like another minute, minute and a half to let the flavors marinate into the water. And then come back and add the noodles. And after that, it shouldn't really take too much longer to cook. So I gave the pot a few more minutes just to let those flavors marinate. And I'm gonna add the noodles. I had a stray one there fly out. And you know, it's hard to use these long noodles in a big pot, but once those bottoms get a little hot, I just kind of press them around, slowly inch them down into the pot. Another second. And they get pretty malleable pretty fast. So steam is hot. Be mindful, steam is hot. It can burn your fingers. And there we go. We got those all in there. And then just I stir those occasionally, every few minutes. And I kind of just let it cook for about 5 to 6 minutes with the noodles in there. They'll get tender in like 3 minutes, and that's fine if that's just how you like it. But I normally give it like 5-6 minutes to boil in there, stirring it around, just to let the flavor soak into the noodles and really have them marinating there. Probably not necessary, but that's how I do it. And I will cut back when it is finished. Alright, so come on, focus. So noodles are done. I'm going to take them off and strain out most of the water, just enough so I have some broth. And then I'll show you the final product. And this is the final thing. I normally just eat some noodles, take some bites of bread, and yeah, this is my lunch. And if you think the recipe looks good or the noodles look good, then feel free to follow it and let me know what you think in the comments. Even though no one watches these videos, maybe someday someone will. Goodbye.